Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining again on this episode of Conversations with Coach IT. Today, we're going to be having a very interesting conversation with an exceptional person, a very special person. And very soon, she's going to be introducing herself. But I just want to really thank you for joining us again on this episode. Today's topic is quite interesting. Like I said, we're going to be talking about turbulent teenagehood. So, what happens around that age range? What is it about teenagehood that seems to attract so much attention and raise so much concern? All of this we're going to be discussing with Mrs. Susan Tyre, and I could go on and on about the phenomenal work that she does, especially with young people. But I mean, it's best to hear from her herself and just allow her talk about what she does. So, Matt, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you for bringing me in for this time. And I need to explain for anybody who's seeing this video, it's snowing, it's cold here. So that's
Yes.
why I have my cap. In fact, I just had to, otherwise I'll be much more heated, but that's fine.
Yeah, but you look absolutely beautiful this way. It's okay. Okay, so we'd just like to hear a bit of who you are, what you do. I know you wear many caps, right? But within the space, working with young people, we'd just like to hear a bit more about what you do.
Okay, so fantastic. So I usually like to call myself as a teenage, I say I'm a parenting coach, and a champion of teenagers. When I say champion, it's like when I see them, I'm in love with them. I like to relate with them, and young adults also. I need to know what is going on in their mind. This is because growing up myself, I don't think I had enough mentors, or if I had any at all. And I know that there's a tendency to make mistakes. And also because when I had my children, and they started growing up, when they approach the teenage, you mentioned something initially. The teenage may not be. I say my teenage age is 8 now. Right?
Yes.
Because while studying and researching, as my children grew up and I realized that parenting is not instinctive, it's learned, I realized that teenage issues comes with hormones. So a lot of it is natural. It's just the way the parents relate with it because they do not know that complicates things. So the hormones are coming in, and it's not only changing the physical look, it's also working on the inside, psychologically, emotionally, because this is somebody crossing a bridge. It's the end of the childhood becoming an adult. And we're still treating them as children. Sometimes we expect too much from them as adults, and they don't have to cross that bridge. Yeah, so I decided that I was going to learn while parenting. I'm an accountant, but that's not important here. And I started to read a lot and research a lot to bring up my own children. The youngest in Netherlands is 22, almost 23 in March. And the things I learned along the way, that the things that worked, I decided I was going to relate with people, put it in the book, and also talk to people, because they realized a lot of people don't even know anything about it. So I relate a lot with teenagers. I communicate with them, try to find out what's in their mind. And I am a one-on-one coach with teenagers and young adults now, and one-on-one coach with the parents. This is something now that I'm doing apart from my professional work, and it's been a good one, adding value to people. Yeah.
Excited to be, seated today with a professional like yourself, one who has spent so many years, directly raising teenagers yourself, who are now adults, your children, and also working with other teenagers. And who else to have this conversation with, if not, a seasoned professional like yourself? And talking about turbulent teenagehood, I often describe my teenage years as, a mix of confusion, creativity, crisis, curiosity, because it was just it was a whole lot. So one morning, there's that tendency of waking up with a lot of energy, full of life, and you're all bubbly. And the next morning, you're waking up all cranky. You don't know what is going on. You don't know what it is, right? And I used to think back then that, I was probably the only one going through this stuff, and nobody got me, like nobody understood what I was going through and all that, until I got into my work with young people and my work with teenagers. And I discovered that every teenager thinks that they're the only ones going through what many people are going through, right? So in your own experience as a mom and as a professional, what would you say it is that makes this age range, what would you say it is that makes it seem so turbulent, so critical? What is it about that age range?
Yeah, so I touched on it a bit before. It's the hormones. So the hormones are for growth. And the same way the physical body is changing is the same way the internal is changing. That's your psychological state, your emotional state, your whatever state you're in. It's the hormones are also dealing with it. You are beginning to realize that you are a person, that you don't have to go through, you don't want you must do this, you must do that. You're trying to discover, who you are. And that's why this turbulence. Who am I? Do I fit into this world? Can I measure up to my peers? What am I going to become? Why is my mother saying I should go to church all the time? What is it about that they're talking about in church? So now, because the parents before now have led you to a point where you have said, okay, you like to follow them everywhere. But suddenly you have a child that wants to go, Mommy, I want to go. And suddenly you get to an age and would you come? Oh no, I like to stay at home than just with your parents. And it's healthy, actually. It's healthy. It's a healthy state. You only need people who understand, how can you be answering when I'm talking? Why would you question whatever I ask you to do? That's the way we instinctively do. But no, she's asking, he's asking each that they need to cross, and they need people who would understand them to cross it. Like you said, it's a whole lot of moods. Now you're very happy. Right now, another 5 minutes, you're thinking of something else and you're sad, and it's not about the people around you really. So sometimes you want to lash out at people and they think, oh, you're lashing out at me or I'm the parent. No, it's about yourself because of the things that are going on. So it's just a hormone. It's a natural thing, right? And it's like trying to say, who will I become? Who is Susan? Who will Susan become? Can I have people around me that will help me know who Susan is? What are the things in this world? Why are you asking me to do this? Engaging, the teenager. So if you have good mentors, about that age who would also remember a bit how they were. Unfortunately for us, many of us grew up and we forget what it was like for us. I'm glad you are doing this, honestly. I really applaud you. And that's why I made just try to be here. Because a lot of people go through it and then they survive it and they forget, But you remember how it was and you're trying to help people, cross this bridge with as little turbulence as possible. There will be turbulence. It has to be. It's like, what do I say? A tree trying to shoot up, right? There's turbulence. There would be, but after you overcome that turbulence, you go up and then you're strong. But if you don't overcome it, then you die off. And that's why a lot of people fall by the wayside while they're trying to grow. So it's a natural thing. It's just individuating, becoming yourself, trying to find yourself. And that will come with a lot of issues. And also, your body is changing. So, emotional. The ladies will go through the period. The guys are going through things they don't understand, the wet dreams and all that. And they need people who they're comfortable with. Unfortunately, this period also comes with some shine. Because like you said, each of them feel that they only was going through it, at a particular point in time. So it's difficult to relate to the adults to, look, I'm not sure what has happened. And the way I handled with my children was to discuss with them very early when they were earlier on in the. For the first one, I think she was 13 before I realized I needed to engage her. But for the others, I started earlier to engage, right from when they're 7, 8. Because the puberty is even coming very much faster now. So I said the teenage now is no longer 13. If you are thinking of 13, you've missed it because you find a lot of people budding from early age. And once they start budding physically, that turbulence has started already. They want to question things, and which is healthy for them. Yeah. So that I don't talk too much. I love parenting. I love teenage. So
yes.
If you give me time. Remember when you invited me for that week, I have a lot.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ma. And one of the things that you mentioned again, about, a teenager trying to discover who they are, why they're on this side of eternity, what is it? Especially when, you talk about, things like your future leaders, right? And they're wondering, when is this future? When are we going to get? And I often tag it as existential crisis. So it's part of the crisis going on, like this crisis around your existence, existential crisis. What is going on? What am I here for? What, just questions like that sometimes could really be overwhelming for the average young person. So yes, I agree with everything you said. Thank you so much, Ma. So before we go on in this conversation, Ma, I want us to take a quick trip back memory lane to when you were a teenager. What was it like for you? Were there experiences, now that you're working with young people and you're working with teenagers, working with young adults, were there experiences when you were much younger, I mean, about that age, that you see now while you're working with them and you're like, okay, so these are, usual or common experiences that happen around this age? What was it like for you?
Okay, so my time is a bit different from now. We didn't have so much information. Our TV started at 4, and it started with Sesame Street, and we had Cockroach at Dawn. So the things we were exposed to then it's not as much at all. It's very far from the things that teenagers are exposed to now. But still, I remember a bit. I mean, I was at a point where, my parents call me Mujisola, right? I was very timid growing up, too quiet. I was so quiet that you could actually say I was timid. So I was overly obedient. So if you tell me to sit in a place and you forget me for 4 hours, that's where I will be, And then I found that my friends were not the same. And I also grew up in Kaduna, which is not, it's kind of a quiet place, quarters and all that. So growing up, I didn't have so much, it was a closed environment. So I was lucky that it wasn't too much for me, too many questions to ask until I went to university. But I remember that there were times that I wondered, is this all life is all about? Okay, I'm going to go to school, I'm doing well in school, and I go to university. My father wants me to study this, and what's really going to happen? I was questioning those things. And I remember at some point in time, even though I was very obedient, I was wondering if those things that my parents are telling me to do are actually the right thing to do, and if they will lead me that way. But the experience I had the most, where I can say it really shook me, was after I left university, because I went to university early. I went at 16, so I was out 19 plus 20. And for me, university was still like, there was still a wall around me. I'm telling you, I'm coming from Kaduna, and then if I went to Ife, there was still a wall. I had my friends were Christians. I love to read, so it's doing well in school and all that. But when I came out and I served in Ibadan was okay, but when I came to Lagos because I wanted to write ICANN, there was a period of a year and a half in my life that things totally got, I want to use the word messed up, in the sense that I became a different person. Wow. Because I didn't know what to do. Because I didn't have like a mentor. So at some point, I was so naive. So when I say messed up, not messed up in the way the world will see it, but for me, I was so naive in the sense I didn't know what was right. There were some points I felt maybe this is what I should be doing now. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is what brought me into this journey, actually. That's why I love teenagers. I'm thinking, could they be like me? I thought this is what I should be doing now, or should I do this? Must I conform? Is this what, if I don't do this, will they think that? Because I was not in Lagos and I was on my own. So that 1.5 years shaped me in the sense that, and that's, but for parenting, it was when I started parenting. But my love for teenagers, that's what shaped me there. I didn't know enough. Wow. So I always say teenagers must have mentors around them. It may not be their parents. Their parents were in Kaduna, far away in Kaduna. It may be just a friend, maybe an aunt, but always find somebody who can discuss. Because if I had somebody at that time who was talking with me and cheering me on that, oh, girl, you're doing the right thing. Don't mind what the other people are saying, because I was actually doing the right thing. But people were saying the other things, like peers. It wasn't so much of a pressure, but so much of maybe they're right. So that experience as a teenager, made me want to actually reach out to teenagers now.
Thank you so much.
Because I feel a teenager coming out of teenage years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I'm to ask for your experience as a teenager, as a young person, looking back now with the power of hindsight, if you had to give yourself answers to some of the questions that were in your mind and some of the experiences, if you were to just, speak to that young person and just encourage that young person, briefly, what would that be?
Okay, so I would like to answer it this way. I think some of the 4 important things that causes that turbulence in a teenage life is self-esteem, body issues and self-esteem. I mean, from my experiences, from my research, from my working with teenagers and young adults, friendship and peer pressure, right? Academics and future, the thought of what's going to happen in my future, what am I going to do? Sometimes family life, conforming, maybe the family life and financial strength of the family also affects them. And also, of course, sexuality, So I think of all the things, now you have addiction, and you also have what do you call it? Your phone, cyber
social media,
addiction,
technology, all of that.
and technology. Thank you. So I want to handle it from that. One, for self-esteem, and I'll try to be short with this. Self-esteem and body issues. I tell the teenagers, we don't all grow at the same rate. And know what you're expecting. That's what I tell the parents. Talk to them long before these things start to change in their body. I was 14. When I was in secondary school, I had 2 very close friends, or 3 that I was working with. By the time we got to Form 1, we used to call it Form, not GS or SS. I'm talking of many years ago, almost 40 years. So by the time we got to Form 2, which is your GS2 now, they were already changing. Their body was changing already. I was not changing. I was just like that. We got to GS3, they were really becoming around. I was not changing. So I started to pray because nobody had discussed with me that we're all different. I was like, maybe there's something wrong with me. And I remember that because I'm a Christian, now when I'm praying, I say, God, please let me, very funny. And it became a real issue for me. I thought I was not the way I be happy with your body because things we keep changing and accept it. Love your body. Don't look at magazines for your body. Write down the positive things. Write the negative things because those are the things in your mind. Then try to write the positive things. Positive things might just be people like to be around you. Positive things might just be you love to bake. You're a good baker. Positive things might just be you know how to read. Just think through. And then look at the negative things. Sometimes they will say, nobody loves me. Then look at it and say, nobody loves you. But mommy loves you. Daddy loves you. So just go through the negative things, and try to think through them. When you think through them, you will discover that they're not as bad as you think they are. And then when you look at your positive things, this is for building your self-esteem because that's a lot with teenagers. You look at the positive things, you say, oh, I have some positive things with me. Think through it, right? And that's then balance it up. You can even speak to maybe a sister or an aunt if your mom is not listening, balance it up. So that helps your self-esteem, right? And then just face up to it because nobody is perfect. You are looking at somebody, knows how to dance very well. I can't dance, but you can do some other things properly. So when the person says, Susan, you don't even know how to dance. Oh, yeah, actually, I don't know how to dance well, but, I love to sing. I know how to sing. Be proud of what you can have. And then for friendship and peer pressure, I've said that look for friends that have the same value with you. And I know this is difficult with teenagers and young adults because you just want to belong in a group. So when you find yourself in a group where they're asking you to do things that are not your values, you know that you need to change your group, which is not easy. But another thing is that question them. So you're in a place and you say, let's drink. There's no problem with it. You can ask, how are we going to feel after we finish drinking? Or how is this even going to affect our liver? I love my liver. I want to live for 100 years more. Try to be fun around it rather than being afraid about it. So that's what I tell them. I said, ask questions. We can do this. And then when you don't have anything to say, tell them, my mother must not catch me doing this. Boy, if they keep telling you to do the wrong things, know that it's the time to find other friendships. Be assertive. So when you're in your house alone, look into the mirror and try to say no. No, I can't do this. You know what?
Learn the no.
It's the right thing to do. Just look on your own. So that when you are with your friends, if you don't learn it, you'll be able to say that no. You said it many, many times over. So you're not afraid to say it. I mean, this is when you have to deal with things yourself. I usually tell parents to have what we call life drills with their teenagers and young adults. What if they ask you to drink? What would you say? I did that with children. And so we would say, you can say this. What if you say this and they're laughing at you? What next do you do? So they're prepared, And for sexuality, I'll stop because I know we don't have so much time. For sexuality, I say, stand first and foremost, what do you want in your life? If you're a Christian, I say, go read 1 Corinthians chapter 6 from 13 to 18, where it says clearly that sex is not mere skin on skin. It's a mystery. The Bible says the two become one. And science has proven that the number of people you sleep with, that they leave something inside of you. And I start from that extreme because somebody says, I'm only hugging, I'm only kissing. So one thing leads to the other. And I talk to them about boundaries. So I love to tell, if there's only one thing that I can say here, let me talk about boundaries so that, when you know your boundaries, you know when things are going. I've spoken with a lot of, especially young girls, whose boundaries, they don't know about their boundaries. And before they knew it, they had crossed all boundaries and it was too late. So I talk of boundaries. The first one is your hand. I don't have to shake everybody. It is my hand. Sometime in university, somebody shook me and did something like that. And I didn't know what it meant, but I was uncomfortable. And for many years, I refused to shake people. You know what I do? When I see you coming from afar, I'm smiling, hey, good morning, how are you? So by the time you get near me, you're not even talking of shaking because I've been very polite, I'm greeting you right from, so it doesn't even come up. So my hand, and at that time I didn't know boundaries, but when I started researching, I found that my hand is actually a boundary. Nobody has a right to pass me because it is my boundary. So I only allow people who are my friends that boundary. That's boundary one. And let me be fast. Boundary two is from your shoulder up. So when I give your hand to somebody, it's a sign of friendship. It means I trust you to an extent. I can give my hand to you to shake or whatever. And then the boundary two is your shoulder up, which means that you're beginning to do the side cheek, right? Or the long hug or whatever. That's boundary two. Now, I'm not going to create and say you must stop, but I'm telling you to be aware. So when you're giving somebody your hand and you're giving them the shoulder up boundary two, the more the boundary you allow somebody, the less your resistance when things begin to happen. So when I've gone boundary one, boundary two is going. Yeah, in your mind, once you know the boundaries, you begin to count them. We have actually 6. So boundary 3 is from your waist up, and we know what is from the waist up. So boundary 2 has your mouth kissing, your necking, and whatever it is. So you begin to know because someone says, there's no big problem. And boundary 3, you have the hug. Some people say hug is okay, but you see, when somebody hugs you, you cannot determine where the person puts their hand. It may be at your back, or it may be on your bum, or it may hug you tight, and you're going to try to pull because you can't control it. So when you decide to do that, know that it's boundary 3. And of course, your breast and all that is on boundary 3. So that it's ringing a bell in you. This all usually opens, especially the ladies and even the guys.
Yes.
Ringing a bell. Just to say, this is going. Have I really gotten to this stage? And of course, boundary 4 is from your waist down, right? But not necessarily sexual. That's why, yes. So you that's from your, what do you call it? Your lap up, right? Or even waist, where you have the vagina is here now. So you could have, it may not be sex, it could be touching. But you know that you're going. Because sometimes you want to stop, but you cannot. Or you want to stop, the other party is far too gone. I like to tell this more to the girls because they're the ones who are emotional, who feel worse at the end of the day. But of course, for people to remain and keep themselves, boys must also be told. And then, of course, 5 is the whole thing. So sometimes you start that boundary and then you don't know what's happening. Some people, all their boundaries, they give it up in 1 hour.
Wow.
So you need to know your boundaries. My daughter married as a virgin at 24 because I told her about boundaries. So when she went into a relationship, she discussed boundaries with her partner and they agreed on the boundaries they would not cross. And even though it was tough, they had agreed because they were both Christian. So that's the sexuality, because a lot of them are wondering, is it okay? My friends are kissing. Can I kiss? They're hugging. Can I hug? Can I touch? And you wouldn't believe right from age 12, 13, even 9, they're thinking of those things. So I think these are the things that trouble them. But once they know and they read that passage and they know that whatever you do, you're going to carry. And 1 + 1 in sexuality is not 2. It can be 5. Because you are 1, but the person who you are joining with might have joined with somebody else before. So if the person you are joining with is a number 3, because I told you everybody leaves something in you. The person has joined up with one person who has joined up with another person. So the 3, so the first day you are doing anything, you are 4. And it carries the mood swings. This is scientific. Wow. So, I mean, depression, anxiety, anger. And that's why you hear some stories where somebody is doing well, even, white people, and they're doing their singing, they're making money, and then they commit suicide because of the things that have gone on in their life. This is science now. This is not just the Bible. The Bible knows science because God created science. And that's why he said it's not mere skin on skin. He said they are joined with the person. So these are things that when teenagers, when young adults hear this in good time, it helps to keep themselves backward than just thinking that the whole world is doing. And the whole world is not doing, I say. Sometimes you think everybody is doing it, but even in the US, the research says that at least 25% of teenagers up till the age of 18 are virgins. You will think it's not possible, but there are. So keep yourself. So we can go on and on, but I know the
So
time
much,
is
Ma.
limited.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ma. So, I mean, on the back of all that you've said now, I would like to ask a critical question. So, how does the kind of teenagehood that a person has, how does it impact on the kind of adult or young adult that the person grows into? Are there any correlations? Are there any, does this affect that, or are they mutually exclusive? I mean, what's that experience like? Does it affect the kind of adult that one grows into?
Definitely, because it's a foundation. So the way you approach your teenage years and the way you get into your adulthood has a lot to do with the kind of adult you become. And I've said to parents that if you do not get the relationship with your teenager on time, and you're going to lose them. Sometimes you lose them forever because the experiences and the exposures and the things they did not know that happened during their teenage can shape them for life. So, but there are a few occasions where the teenager becomes an adult, maybe at 25 or 28, and some things happen in their lives, and then they can, revert or reverse. But you don't want to take, that risk. So it happens a lot. I mean, sometimes something just happens and they begin to question and then they begin to find their feet, but they never forget. I made some mistakes in my late teenagehood, which I haven't forgotten. And I feel, if I knew better, I wouldn't even have made those mistakes at all. I mean, some people will say it's nothing, but for me, it's something because they're like wounds, and even when they heal, they leave scars. So you always see the scars. And for some people, they find it difficult to deal with scars. The scars even affect them into marriage. They keep remembering, and sometimes they go into marriage with it, right? So it's very important that a teenager, that's why I'm into parenting. Because I think that the first point of call for teenagers and young adults, and I say from the age 8, is their parents. And the parents must know to be able to teach. So if you don't even know, you cannot teach. A lot of parents just leave them or just handle them like they handle. My mother didn't even, I said I thought I started period late because I was even praying for it. Yes, my mother asked me about period a year after, at age 15.
Oh, wow.
When my friends had started at 12, 13, and I was praying for it, and I was just laughing. And I had a tough time, even though I was praying for it, I still didn't know everything about it. So I just told her, Mommy, okay, I hear you. And I was upset. This man just coming at 15, but because maybe she felt she started at 15 or 16. So I tell parents, especially parents now, there's a lot of work for you to do. You need to start early. Sexual education starts from age 1.5 when your child can talk. There are things you teach that child. And so you don't just wait until they're 8 or 9 or 13 and start talking. No, there are things you teach that child. That child knows that you're open and they can ask their questions, and that takes you up. So yes, it has a lot of correlation, but there's grace, right? And there's always a new beginning. There's always a new beginning. And we can always forgive and start again.
And start all over again. Thank you. So there's this silent insinuation usually. I mean, like I said, I've also been in, that space of working with young people and also interacting with parents and all of that. And there's this silent insinuation or submission that, young people, especially teenagers, do not have a right to talk about, being stressed, being under pressure. What do they even know? That's the usual statement. What do they know? What have they been through? As though it is until you get into adulthood that you're allowed to feel some of those things. What would you say about that?
You see, those are the things that burns in my heart. And that's why when I see things happen, I just wonder, parenting, what kind of parenting did this burns in my heart? Because yes, teenagers will be stressed. Some people say, what are they working about? Of course they will be stressed because there are lots of things. You can't look at them like you're an adult. There are lots of things that are going on in their mind, like you said, for you. And these things stress them out. So you must actually validate their feelings. The only way you can help them through that bridge is to validate their feelings and not, suppress it or think that it is nothing. So teenagers must speak out. And that's why I'm a champion for them. When I see them, I just sit with them and say, yeah, what's happening? But let's talk. I'm a teenager, let's just talk. Because I remember that I made some mistakes because I didn't have anybody I could talk with like that. So if you're stressed, you say you're stressed and you validate that reason. Because if you really learn about parenting and you learn about the teenagehood, you find that yes, they can even be more stressed than you think it's work and bringing in money. For them, what they're going through is even worse than what you are going through at some point in time. And it's different for every teenager. And depending on their environment, their exposure, their temperament, all this come into it. Some of them are even very quiet. Like you said, they don't talk, but a lot of things are going in them. And that's even worse than those ones. And some of them talk a lot and they are all over the place, but that is not exactly what is in them. They're just trying to cover up. Yes. So I think that the more we tell people and we do all that we can, because we need to be able to help them. We are the adults now. They can't do everything on their own. And the more we begin to realize that this is it. We need to do this. This is better for us.
Thank you so
and
much.
I tell teenagers, I said sometimes, I tell teenagers, I say sometimes your parents may not know it. Like they might even come for parenting seminars and still believe that that's not there.
Wow.
You know what you can do? I tell them, I said, you be the bigger person. So read, look for a mentor somewhere, look for an auntie or an older friend, somebody you can emulate and all that. And take your time. Even when you're feeling stressed, don't talk. Later, speak with them. Be the adults. It's possible also. It's tougher, but it is possible because you can't blame them at the end of the day.
And there's this usual, phrase that I have a friend that usually say that, usually if people knew better, they will do better. And sometimes it's also, translating to parenthood. Sometimes it's just that, they are not aware of these things and all that. And we feel, why don't you know? Why, but they don't. I mean, I see many parents that are like, we didn't even know, like,
they don't,
what is that about?
A clue. Some of them come and say, but I wish I like my mother. My mother will never listen. And I tell them, love them. They love you. They're doing the best they can. This is what they understand. You can invite them for parenting seminars or all that, but love them. I mean, this is what they're doing. This is what they know to do. So don't, because of that, try to just become rebellious for no reason. Just love them and do your thing. Yeah, like it's true. You can only give what you have. I didn't have it. I had to learn it. Yes, I didn't have it too. I had to learn it. Fortunately for me, I'm a reader. So I knew that you could learn whatever you don't know. And when children grew up quiet, okay. But when they became teenager, the first one, and I thought something different, I was afraid. I was shocked. Initially, I wanted to fight it like, who are you? I'm the mother. And I realized it wasn't working. So I had to go back to research and to learn. In fact, I didn't have any mentor, but I learned, win some, lose some. I kept learned through her, learned through the brother, because temperaments are different. That position matters. So what I worked with my first child, work with the second one. Their temperaments also. So I just learned all through the ropes. So some parents will not learn. Like I said, love them through it.
Thank you, Ma.
And then for those of us that have learned, we just give the information as much as
give information. Thank you. So how can, a teenager, someone who is at the end of teenagehood, towards the end of that teenage, how can they easily transition into the stage of young adulthood, especially in terms of, leaving the space of dependence into, that level of independence and taking responsibilities and facing life head on? How can there be some sort of ease in that transition?
Okay, so if they had parents who knew about parenting, these parents would they won't even wait until they get to 19 or 18 or 19, right from when they begin. Because you see, teenage is not the end of adulthood, childhood. It's actually the beginning of adulthood. We treat it as if they're just ending. No, they're beginning. So from that age, you begin to teach them responsibility, financial responsibility, social responsibility. You take them to orphanages. You could give them some pocket money and tell them to make accounts for those that have those friends. For those that do not have, like I said, thank God for the age of social media, of Google, and of all those things, and of finding, if they're Christians, finding the church. They need, apart from just learning online, because there can be conflicting information. What I would tell them is look up to somebody, whatever your environment is. There's somebody that you respect. Try to approach the person nicely and ask the person to mentor you. It may not be in all aspects of life. So you might find somebody, mentor me financially. You might find somebody spiritually. You need to take that responsibility because you're an adult. And that's how you transition, learning. So begin to learn from it, begin to read. I tell teenagers, read a lot. Don't only read your novels. Begin to read, finance books. Begin to read growth books. Begin to read all sorts of books. Learn through those things. So if you don't want to read, go online and read some of those things. That's the way to transition smoothly. Otherwise, you are thrown in the world. which was what happened with me. And for 1.5 years, my legs were wobbling. I didn't know what to do.
Higher chances
So
of trial and error and all of
yes,
that.
it took me making some mistakes I didn't have to make to be able to become an adult. So if you don't want to make those mistakes, then it's good to look out for. For instance, if I were to go back to live my life, I would actively search for a mentor. I wouldn't wait for one to be thrown at me. I would actively search for one growing up, and that's the way to go. It may be church, it may be anywhere,
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. So for a teenager or a young adult that is going through a challenging time, whether at school or a workplace or even in the home, what would you say are practical ways that such person can live beyond the overwhelm, live above that overwhelm and that feeling of pressure and all? What are critical ways? What are practical ways, pardon me?
The very first thing, like I said, is to sit back. Maybe before you even talk to somebody, speak to yourself and ask what are the issues with you. Actually pen them down, write them down.
Self-talk.
Because if you don't understand the problem, you cannot even solve it.
Mm,
So actually sit down and think to yourself, what are the things that are troubling me? And then you categorize them. Is it my family and their finances? Is it body issues and self-esteem? Is it do I stay too long on my phone? Is it social media problem? Is it the things that other people say about me that bothers me so much? So think through it, you know, and then speak to yourself about it. Once
mm,
you know what the problem is, then again I would say until you share, you can't begin to solve your problems. So
mm,
we're not created as islands. I cannot be me, myself, and alone. I
mm,
won't be able to help myself that way because I'm going to relate with other people. So once I know the problem, then I begin to actually search who can help me in this problem. And for now, I mean, people can search for you online and find what you do
mm,
and ask to join into the groups and the seminars that you are giving for free. You do a lot of these things for free.
mm,
Sometimes you may even need to pay. But the first thing is to know exactly where they are at. Once you know where you are at, and you decide where you want to be,
mm,
right? And that is how you can work the journey, looking for people who can help you in that through that journey. You can't do it alone.
mm.
What you don't know, you cannot give. So
Sure.
you need to know it. And how do you know it? You need to get the knowledge and look
Mm,
for people from which you can get knowledge from. Yeah. So if you're having issues with maybe it's even the family, look for places where you can actually discuss, once you know the issues, where you can actually discuss these issues with somebody who you know can help, and they will begin to guide you
mm,
along the line. Otherwise, it's really difficult, yes. And then sometimes you can get books to read. Be
mm,
sure of the kind of books you're reading, though, because sometimes I get very good books, and in between those books are from things that I don't agree with entirely. So that's why I say people need to be careful.
mm,
So sometimes it's like 80% good. I got a Christian book that was talking about sexuality and what to teach children, and I got to a point and it was saying, masturbation is okay, and I said, oh wow, one needs to be careful. Yeah, that's what I think. You need to know what it is, where you want to go, and then look for help. You need to
Thank you
look for
so
help.
much, Ma. It's been
That's what
awesome having these conversations with you. I mean, it's been a lot of, unfolding and just shedding light on some of these things. And in closing, what will be your final word to, young people going through that phase and just having these challenges and pressures? What would your final word to them be?
Yeah, my final word is remember that a lot of people love you. No matter what it seems to you, maybe, oh, my daddy doesn't care, my mother doesn't care. They actually love you. They may not be showing it in a way that you think they should show it or in the way you understand. That's the first thing. Because when you remember that you are loved, it actually helps in what you do the next. And then, like I said, going through the issues, sit back and reflect. What are these issues? Then look for help along the way. Look for help. I mean, like your own ministry, fantastic one. Don't just sit back expecting things to fall for you or to just happen overnight or an angel comes. No, you need to take responsibility. So I tell them, please take responsibility and look for help. If you actively seek for help, you will get good help.
Mm,
But remember, there are people that love you. So for
mm,
that, no thought of suicide, no thought of I'm not good enough. You are good at some things, only if you think. Because a lot of them think, I'm not good at anything, there's nothing wrong. No, you are. Even if you're not good in academics, there are other ways that you're good. There are other things that you're good at. There
mm,
is something good about you.
mm.
Believe and trust in yourself and look for help. And
Thank you
of
so
course,
much, ma.
they should know that a lot of people are going through the same thing. It's not about them. A lot of people are going through the same thing, and there is hope at the end of the tunnel.
Yep. No, thank you so much, ma. A lot of people are going through the same things that, everyone is going through. Thank you so much, ma. It's been insightful sitting with you today, and I'm really grateful that you took out time to be on this episode with us. And so for people that want to reach you, how can they reach you?
Okay, so easy. So just look for Parenting with Susan, either on Instagram, Susan Tayo, Facebook, at Twitter at Parenting with Susan. And then I have a website that you can get some information from, whether you're a teenager, whether you're a parent. It's parentingwithsusan.com, www.parentingwithsusan.com. I do run some seminars, and I'm a life coach also, so you can always reach me through any of those means, and you can send me a message on WhatsApp for whatever you need.
Thank you so much, ma. Thank you. Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's true. And there are books too. I'm sure that by the time you get on the WhatsApp, on the website, yes, and the Instagram and all of that, yes, you'll find all the books and resources. Thank you so much, ma. And to our listeners, our audience, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Conversations with Coach IT. It's been a phenomenal time with Mrs. Susan Tayo talking about turbulent teenagehood. And I hope that you've learned a whole lot from this episode. Until the next time that I come your way, thank you and take care. Bye. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. I hope you learned a thing or two. Please feel free to send in your questions and experiences to my DM on Instagram or as an email to conversationswithcoachit@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, and share with your friends. See you on the next episode. Bye.